essentially I want to do a shot where it's all playing to music and all the animation is like rhythmically in time with the beats that happen of the song. So like all the action, if there's like an accent or like a snare or something in the music, then the animation and the motion is going to sync up with that. And I don't think that's something that's been done too much. Usually like music is added after the fact in animation rather than being played to the playing to the music. Obviously it's different if you have like a musical, because then it's all dialogue based, right? But this has no dialogue. It's literally the instrumentation is what is driving the animation. There are a couple of I'm trying to think. There may have been something that inspired me to do this. I honestly can't remember. I think I just listened to music. Maybe there was some like instrumental guitar music I was listening to maybe 5-6 years ago, and I was like, oh, this would be really cool to animate to. So that's kind of where the idea came from. And then over time, I've developed a love for like 90s anime style, that kind of animation. And so I thought, well, let's put those two things together. So I've kind of gone for like an Akira Ghost in the Shell tone thing. It's all like in a cyber world. And the music that this is all based and inspired by is a music genre called funk. So that's where the music comes from. It has some cool like rhythmic patterns in there. So I'm kind of blending all those things together. And my intention at least is to animate it all in Maya, export all of that out into Blender, and then do all the R&D inside of Blender, make it feel like a 90s anime essentially. And there'll be a lot of homages to things like Akira and Ghost in the Shell and that kind of stuff. A lot of effects. There'll probably be a lot of 2D involved as well at the end. But from an animation perspective, I do want to kind of keep it nice and tight and punchy, so that it'll feel almost like it was done as though it was an anime. So I'm still in the blocking stages of it now, but as you saw, a lot of the layout and the staging is done. All the beats are there. So I'm just going through and blocking this out now. So I'll play what I've got so far, but this isn't the full run. This is like the first 2/3 and the last third of that section still needs some work, which we'll be doing today. So I'll play it now. So this is all fairly temporary, just to get some beats in there, at least at the beginning, but all of this is the first blocking pass. So this is all the stuff that we'll probably start doing today. Essentially, for a bit of context here, she's an assassin. She takes someone out that we don't necessarily see at the beginning. And then at this section, these are like these robots that are like police force that are trying to surveillance her. So what this robot does here is it comes over to this wall, it projects a wanted poster of her on it, which I'll obviously do some art for. So that everyone's trying to like find her because they know who it is. I don't know. I haven't justified the logic as to how they already know it was her. But the point is, you could say like, look out for this person. She's assassinated someone else, and she's trying to escape them. So what's going to happen is, my intention is, there's a beat in here. If you listen to the music, so she comes over, dun-dun-dun-dun, boom, goes through. You notice these robots here. This robot's like controlling the mini ones, and it goes, right, you two go over those ways. And then on this beat where it goes dum bum dum bum, so you got the two robots there going bum 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 bum, and they kind of come up into their beat, and then she goes dun 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 dun. So you hear that beat there, dun 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 dun. That's when she's gonna walk across this beam, like balance beam. And then she's going to drop down and swing from these like pipes that are drooping down. She lands, climbs down onto this platform where the robot is. And then here, he does this pose. But what's actually going to happen is she's going to climb up onto his shoulders and then do like a turn, like a full-on turn kick, and knock him flying off down into this pit down here. I think when I have the kick, because this rig is quite cool, the robot rig, it's a new one from Agora. You have the ability to like take parts of the body apart. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have her do this kick, this like roundhouse kick, and it's gonna knock the head off the robot. So he's gonna go like full on decapitation, and then the rest of his body's gonna fall down into the pit. So I'll get some cool 2D effects of like sparks coming out of the root of the neck and that kind of stuff, which will be fun. That's gonna be all the fun part. Once the rest of it's animated, just doing all the 2D stuff over the top of it. But to give you a bit more context, I've also done some thumbnails. So this is my early thumbnailing process. The design of her character has obviously changed a little bit because I was using a different rig at the time. But this is the section we'll be working on today. So we've got up to number 3 so far, where she's leaning over. Then she's going to do this balance beam, land down onto this piping, drop down, climb up over the robot. The guy in the red is the robot. I didn't really know what rig I was going to use at the time. She's going to drop down, climb up onto him, jump off this, like there's a railing on the left side here of where she is, and then she does this kick. He goes flying and then bounces off of this beam, which is this thing here. Yeah, the rope part is interesting, and it was a challenge. I did not make the rig. It was... I forgot what it was called. There's a website. I can probably quickly find it for us. If you give me 2 seconds. It's probably like the first one that comes up, right? When you go onto like Maya rope rigs. It was one of the first ones that popped up. Forget what it was called off the top of my head. This one, the Candy Rigs one. It's pretty flexible, so it's this one here. And then I've just scaled its like length and everything. But the part that's really techie about that section of the shot is there are actually two so there are 2 rope rigs, but whenever she holds onto it with one hand, it's a single rig. Whenever she holds onto it with... Oh no, sorry. Whenever she grabs hold of it and it goes taut, it's actually 2 rigs. So whenever it's loose and she's not touching it, you can see it looks like one clean line. But then whenever she grabs hold of it, like here, see how it goes straight? And if you look closely, you can see where I've scaled the geometry of one rig. So it goes really bunched up. And then the other side, it's just to give it that nice taut feeling, because the rig wasn't necessarily capable of having that harsh line. And then the tricky part is when she grabs hold of it with 2 hands. So for instance, let's have a find a section. Where is it? Like, where are you? Here. So this is still 2 rigs, but at one point there's a split where there's another, like, there's almost like 2 points. There's 2 points of harshness now. So it's just trying to play with the controls to give it that sense of, I think the right hand side is the one rig. So this line here is one, and then this middle section where they connect the hands together is that same rig. And then the left hand side line is just one. That's the second rig. So it's just playing around with that, trying to get that to work. When I go into spline, it's going to be, well, I don't know if I'm going to spline this. I might spline it. I think for 90s anime, since they go usually on 2s, I'll probably play with that, but keep it nice and tight and punchy, and then I can play with smears and multiples and all that kind of stuff later. They don't tend to smear too much in 90s anime from what I've seen, but they use speed lines a lot. So again, I want to make sure I'm playing homage to the things correctly. So I'll take some creative license here and there, but for the most part, I would like to try and I want to make it feel like it resonates with people who like the 90s anime. I think I'm doing 2D stuff in Blender as well. Yeah, I probably will. I'm gonna try. We'll see how I get on with it. From those who I have spoken to about it, it seems relatively versatile. But if I can't, I might do the first pass in Blender, and if I can't get exactly the stylistic things I need to do with it, I'll probably render out that as a separate pass, and then go into Photoshop, do some paint overs over the top of what I did in Blender to make it even more accurate, and then I'll put it all back in Comp, which I'll probably use After Effects for. I might not spline it, Classic Aaron. Well, it's funny you say that, because as you know, I like working on 2s, having, you've been in my class, so you know this. But I think I've kind of got tired of it now. There was even something that was posted on the Agora channel not long ago with the anim challenge for Arcane, and obviously Arcane is in spline. And there was someone who did a really cool shot, but it was in 2s, and I was like, oh, why didn't you spline it? It would have looked better. So I think it's really subjective, obviously, but if this weren't a 90s anime like homage, I probably would spline this shot. But to keep it feeling like an anime and of something of its time, I might not spline it. I'll look at certain sequences once I really dive into it, once we've kind of got out of the blocking stage and it's all fleshed out in terms of the beats and the poses, etc. I'm going to look back on those references of like Akira, Ghost in the Shell, and see how they're actually approaching it animation-wise in style. And then I'll use that to inform how I do frame rates and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's as far as I've got so far. So what we're going to do is I'm going to nail it down to this section here, and we're going to start building from there. So last stream, we mostly just worked on robots, which probably wasn't the most exciting part because obviously we're just doing very rigid mechanics, and it was like getting the rhythm and the timing of those robots to go around. So it was this section here we were doing last stream. And he does the step, sees her, and then it climbs up. That's as far as we got last time. But I would like to get to the point here where we're going back into... I'm calling her Major because it's, again, a reference to Ghost in the Shell. So I've got my picker here. And I was going to start building back into her again, so we're going to see a little bit more of like the human animation on this part. And just, yeah, we'll go from there. So she swings around. So around this beat, I don't really want her to be doing much because I want us to recognize what the robots are doing. And then here, as the camera begins to pan away, that's when she's going to start moving again. So I'll put a key here just to, you know, say this is where I'm going to start my animation again. And then I'm going to look at my thumbnails and I'll use that to inform my posing. Hey Tom, how's it going? Good to see you here again. You're like one of my #1 visitors on stream now, so that's pretty cool. Hope you're doing good, man. So what I'm going to do is we'll grab the thumbnails. I'll just have it, you probably won't see it on screen, but I will be using them as reference. I may rework how she like maneuvers across this beam later. Because I want it to have character to it. I don't want it to just be a generic, I'm going to walk across it. So that's something I might need to think about a little bit more with time, but I want to get the main beats in there and then I can rework stuff later if I need to. So when it goes dun 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 dun, when you hear that drop there, that's where I want to start adding my keys. So at this stage, I want her to be on this pole. So here, she wants to be down here. Now, there's quite a lot of information going on around this time with the banner. I may retime this later, but we'll see. So what I'm going to do is I'll rip off a panel so I can see my camera, the perspective, and then we can move her through space. So what I'll probably do is I'm going to take all of this and I'm just going to reset the rotations. It'd be helpful if I had Animbot turned on. Right, let's try this again. So let's reset her rotations. So I'm using FK on the arms and the spine. That's generally how I work. Keep everything nice and intact and anatomical. And Animbot always freezes the first time I try and do something with it, so it might take about 10 seconds. There you go. It's come back to us. And it didn't reset it. Try again. Should reset all the rotations. If not, I'll just do it manually. It's not an issue. And she's completely disappeared. That's good. She shouldn't have. Hold on, let's try that again. It might be because the main... There you go. That's what I wanted. Yeah, I think it's probably just going to be easier because I don't know what rotations I was using before, so I'm actually just going to build off of what I already have here. Because this leg's actually in FK here, I can see, because it's loose. So I need to switch that back. So let's make her right leg back into IK. That's the arm. And then we'll move everything over. So we also want that left arm back into FK. And then let's just move everything over quickly. So I need to look at my staging. So I want her to be under this railing because she's going to drop down and catch onto this. So in my thumbnails, I've got the main beats and mechanics in there, but I haven't actually necessarily figured out the breakdowns and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of that's the interesting part of this. I'm being a little bit spontaneous, just seeing where I can push my animation theory and that kind of thing. And yeah, we'll see where we go. So let's keep her upright. Then we'll take her spine. Let's reset all of this. And her head. And her arms. Reset that. And then this is actually a little bit wider than I expected it to be, so I might try and thin this out. This whole piece here. It's mostly just this section. So I'm just going to take this, hopefully it doesn't crash my scene. Yeah, I just want to make that thinner so that she doesn't have much space to walk along. Dun 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 dun. I'm probably going to have to improvise a little bit her leg placement as well, because I don't know which one's going to be leading, but that should be easy enough to swap if I need to later. I just want to get the main key pose in there first, and then we'll build from there. So let's just flesh everything out. Sometimes it feels weird going back into animation now, because for the last 2 months, even though it's not been that long, my colleague and I have just been doing layouts at Blur, so going back into like actually animating a character, it always feels like, oh, okay, I feel like I haven't done this in ages. So let's get that leg, get a bit of foot roll in there. Also, I'm going to have to refamiliarize myself with the rig itself. So that's toe roll. There we go. Whoa. Okay, that was a weird stunted point there. Let's just zoom in on her in the pose. It'd be nice to push her line of action, of course. Let's arch her spine back a bit. Maybe I can get a bit of twist on that foot a little bit more. Get a little bit more foot roll in there. So I want to try and keep her balanced, but I don't know, because when I look at my thumbnail, I'm not sure if I like the symmetry in here. This feels kind of boring. So maybe I try and find a way to kind of keep her a little bit more dynamic. But I'm not quite sure how I want to play this one. Do I have a bit of twist in there? Or is she more calculated? I kind of like the idea of her being calculated, but it's just trying to find an interesting pose to do with her arms. Are they more back? Are they more forward? Or maybe it is more like I want to sell the idea that she is trying to balance herself, so I just keep her arms outwards. And then we'll do the same on the other hand. I don't think that worked. Try that one. I don't like this hand pose. It's a little bit better. Maybe I can slightly relax the fingers. We'll start off with this for now. I want to see if I can still push this line of action a little bit more in the back. Maybe bringing this all forward a little bit more. We'll start with like this, and then we'll see how we get on. Because I want to get the timing right of the bum 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 of her coming through. And I want to keep that relatively tight, but I want to make sure her feet land on the beats. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 with her feet. Because again, that's kind of part of it. Yeah, today's the last day. Ooh, big one, man. I hope it goes well. And I hope, I look forward to seeing it after check it out on campus. So let me just place keys where I know the beats land for her foot placements. So it's there. Boom, 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 boom. So it's there. There's a few placements in there where she does 4 steps over this part. That's quite a lot, and I quite like this because this means I can play with the rhythm even more. So maybe I can add a little bit of hang time in here, because right now she's in this pose, right? So she's gonna have to swing her momentum to come up to then do the 4 steps. So I can do a little bit of a 1, 2, 3, 4, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of feeling. Whereas a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the rhythm. So I want to do this swing here. So I want to do like an antic, right? So we want to come through and have like a boom, bum, 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 bum kind of feeling to it. So as we're coming through here, I want to get my first antic pose as she comes through. I don't want her to feel too labored though. That's the thing. I want her to feel very calculated. Maybe she does like a full-on 360 turn, so it's ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-bum. That could be quite cool, because then it gives me a bit of time to play with her hang time during this section in here, and it also kind of keeps up the pace, keeps it feeling dynamic. So I'll explore that first. So she does this 360 as she's turning. So at this stage, she might be facing away from where she's going, but then we can lead in with the chest more. So let me just reset everything. Get some tilt in the spine. She begins to turn. Then we'll lead around with the head. This is a little bit counterintuitive for me to work with, because I'm used to using the head orientation in world space. So in other words, it doesn't follow what the neck is doing. But because this is such a dynamic and broad shot, it only makes sense when you're doing all these somersaults and flips that I don't have to keep rotating the head every time the root does, doing that manually. So I've actually had her head in neck space so that I have to counter any time I drop the neck down. I have to counter the head up. So there's like the pros and cons in there, but it is a bit counterintuitive to me to work that way because I'm not used to doing that. So she comes around. So I want her to lead in. It's going to be her right leg in here. So I'm going to make sure my switches are flipped. They should be like this pose. So I'm going to make sure those are all switched in here. And then it was the right leg. I want to be down here. So it's coming around. That foot's going to be more profile, I think, because we want to be leading through. Dun 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 dun. And then this leg's gonna come around like this. I'm just, again, this is where I haven't planned my posing, so I'm exploring ideas and seeing what I can come up with that makes sense, but also kind of feels kind of dynamic and interesting. So I might get a bit of negative space in there. The hips feel a bit disconnected right now. I'm not sure what's going on with that leg. Here. That's distorting, but I'm not sure why. Why is that distorting? Yeah, that's weird. I can do this, a little bit of that cleanup later. Let's get a little bit of that foot coming around. And then I want to drag the arm as this comes through, because that's the arm that we left off with most. That's coming around. Then this was her other arm, which was loose, so I can always have that swinging back. Again, looking at the flow in my pose, seeing how I can make it more interesting, more appealing. I have to compensate a little bit in here for the shoulders with this chest. I could drag the arm back, but then it goes against the appeal because everything's kind of like in this nice C shape if I'm looking at the flow and the rhythm of my pose. So I'm wondering, that might be more interesting to do it this way. So let's just say this is my antic pose. Again, we can rework and build this stuff as we go along. Do I use any polish plugins often for productions like Sticky Mods and in Polish? Yeah. On the last project I worked on, last feature I worked on, which was Dogman, which is a DreamWorks film that comes out in February, we did have Sticky Mods to fix up anything in like polishing and any QC fixing that we needed to fix, that kind of stuff. But we didn't have anim polish. I've never actually used it. I hear good things about it, but I should probably look into that one. So I'm just seeing how I can create a little bit more appeal in the flow of my posing. Just getting those little bend bones, giving it a little bit more rhythm. I like pushing the curves where I can. Right, so we've done this pose. So we've come around, then we go into the step. So this is the part where I'm going to have to be a little bit, as it comes through, we're going to have to do a little bit of a step where we're going to be blending into this transition. So I'm just going to use Tween Machine to blend through. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to get out of this, but I'll try it and see what I get. So what I'm going to do is I'm just snapping all of these positions. So go from here to here. Now I'm going to do a step. I do want it to get a little bit tighter so it doesn't just go linearly across. I do want it to kind of feel like we ease in because I want everything to be nice and tight. And there's very distinct beats of fast and slow. So it actually does these steps, even though the rhythm is very repetitive, where it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll make it, the speed of it, a bit varied. So each step gets progressively, starts off wider and then progressively gets less. So that we get something a little bit more interesting. But yeah, we'll see what the rig gives us to work with when I blend here. Here we go. So we take this step. Dun 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 dun. So in here, I'm going to snap my rotations back on my root, because now I've added a 360 in here. So this is where the root would be facing. And just to get a little bit more contrast, I might have her go a bit lower on the first few steps, and then she's like leading in with her chest. So let's reset the spine again, lean the spine forward. I'm not even looking at what the legs are doing right now, I'm just looking at the shape of the spine. And then let's reset the rotations on the head and neck. Would nice get a bit of a lead on the neck and the head as we're coming through. Then we can do the legs. I'm so glad I locked the camera. Because the amount of times I'll be in camera view, forget I'm in camera view, and then start moving the camera after I find like I've locked it down, and I'm like, oh no. Right, so this needed to do a 360. Everything needed to do a 360 at this stage. So this needs to wrap around. Again, this is something that's so easy to forget about, is like what rotations you're using. So this has come around. That's going to be the back leg. So this wouldn't have made contact here. This is going to be passing behind. And then this leg has come around and is landing. So let's remove all the foot roll. This is the one that come down here. Now the spine is getting pretty distorted in there. So I need to curl the hips to start with. But this spine, I'm not liking some of the S shapes. That's an ugly shape that's going on the spine there. That feels a bit better, but it's almost a little bit too contorted. So I'm gonna lean the root forward and then try and balance this back out again. We can always clean this stuff up later, and there might be some spine curves that we can, like, you know, we can do some fixing with. But I would like to try and keep it clean with what we've got in the rig. Done. Now, she might actually be a bit further back at the... Oh, well, we just take the step forward, I suppose. This is going to be a little bit further ahead. Now, because we were dragging the arm back here, we came round. I think her left arm is going to still be coming through, and the right one would have already kind of come round in here. I kind of like this part of the process because you're going off of like intuition and instincts. Like there's only a certain level of planning you can do, and because this shot was so long, or is so long, I didn't do as much planning as maybe I could have. So I'm very much like, I got my main beats in there, my main poses, but a lot of these mini breakdowns are very spontaneous. So I get to just play around and explore ideas. So I kind of like this part of the process, but it's definitely like you're outside your comfort zone because you don't really, I haven't necessarily gone in with a plan. So I'm exploring ideas and seeing what I can come up with. Now I might have that arm overshoot or something. That still kind of looks interesting. I'll go with this for now, and then we'll see how it feels as we go along. I've animated the jacket here, when actually really this should be reset by now. This probably should have been reset ages ago. Oh, maybe. Okay, it's not even animated. Never mind. I would like to get a different hand pose in some of this, though. The fist here doesn't bother me because we can splay that later, which will feel nice, but definitely on the other hand, her left hand. Let's get a more relaxed hand pose in there. Let me save a version of this before I accidentally overwrite something. I did this literally this last week. I was doing iterations on our layout and I just kept forgetting to save up, so I kept on overwriting stuff that I had done like 3 days ago, and I'm like, oh, I don't have that old version now. It's so annoying. So I'm just going to go into my graph editor here, and check my rotations, and it actually looks like it's done the... Did it do a full 360? So here, it looks like it actually has done it correctly. How did I plan that? I don't remember doing a 360 in the first block in class. Maybe I did. Let me check my feet. Did I do that? I don't remember doing that. There you go. Here it hasn't done it. So we started twisting out here. Then we've come through. Then here, this needs to snap. I think. I don't know. I guess as we tween machine it, we'll find out. So I'm going to look at my foot placements here. So that back foot needs to stay back. Wow, that's real stretching now, isn't it? So I've got to keep the body lower, get that arc in there. This is where I get to figure out my foot placements. So this foot might actually need to be more forward at this stage. So that when we get to this plant, it's going to be a bit further ahead, which means I can then tighten my spacing in here. And I would still like to keep her leading down. But keep the head leading up. Dun dun. And then this foot, if I do just snap that, yeah, so we've still got a bit of way to go. That's kind of that's a good thing at this stage. So I want to keep the foot a little bit further back. Boom, boom. And then I'll get a bit of foot roll on that back foot. Trying to find that balance between the posing of one foot and how it connects into the next. Now I want to overshoot one arm and then follow through the other. So this one's going to overshoot. Which means we might get a bit of overshoot and twist in the chest. That shoulder's gonna come down. And then this arm came through. And then I'm going to keep that hand, that fist, closed. Dun 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 dun. I'll play this through. We will Playblast this at some point. Have you been playing anything at the moment? Any guys, anyone here been playing games and stuff? So we got that step, then we got another ease in here. Boom, boom, boom. So that foot needs to come forward. This one needs to stay back. So already looking at this pose, see how we're getting a little bit of that balancing coming through? Dun 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 dun. So I'm gonna ease that foot roll out more. But I do like the idea of kind of staying on tiptoes. It makes it feel like we're a little bit more delicate. Actually starting to balance. We might even be able to slightly counter her weight in here. So we get a bit of that balancing. So she takes a step, comes through. Overshoots, And then she's going to have to counter her balance in here. And then with her hands, I'll begin to ease out some of the hands, but not all of them. So in here, we can begin to lead out with the index, because if we think of our hands, you typically close with your pinky, and then you open up with your index. So I know it's only blocking stage, but it's good to think ahead. So in here, I can tuck some of this back in. Stuff like this, and then we're starting to get a little bit of that lead unraveling as that comes around. Need to balance the head back out. Definitely want to get this hand straight. Dun, dun, dun. Keep the arm up. Something like this. Now we got to do the ease ins and outs of this part. I don't want to go too tight into the blocking part because this is still first pass blocking. I don't want to go too intricate with our blocking stage, but it's also kind of nice to see you kind of see everything play out. So yeah, I'll flesh this out a little bit more, but I don't want to go too far. I get very easily carried away. So I might do a little antic in here. So I'm going to ease out spine. And then we'll build a little bit of a back. Like we want to do a little bit of an antic. I don't know how much. I think we need to have some form of physical mechanics in here, but also we are exaggerating. So I want to keep it kind of tight and subtle. But in here, for instance, I might have a little bit of the spine going back. Then I can drag the leg a little bit. Again, this is still an FK at this stage. But I'll probably do most of it with the chest. And then counter with the head. So we get a little bit of that momentum kind of coming back with the arm. So like this is what suggests our momentum. So I'll have the arm come back. I might exaggerate this a little bit more so we get a little bit more of a silhouette on that hand so it reads. But I don't want to go too far. Yeah, it's tricky. And then I'll get the arm to splay out. That's the right hand. So a tiny antic, then we come through. And I want this to be pretty tight, so we're going to have a breakdown as she comes through. She comes around and holds into the air. This might be a cool opportunity actually to get that leg to come out. This already looks a bit more dynamic. So this leg comes around and steps in. This is kind of cool. I like this as a pose. Also feels a little bit more anime, having that leg come around and then come through. So in here, this leg sticks down. This leg stays behind. I'll probably have to do a bit of foot twist in here. So this foot is twisting. Do I do it from the heel or do I do it from the toe? The toe would be more mechanically correct. So let's get that knee to stay out like this. And And then I'm going to have to begin to ease that foot out because it's intersecting. Something like this. Just to get a little bit of an ease out. I would like to keep that hand on the wall because she needs to have contact to throw her weight around. Was that an FK or an IK? Should be a... Yeah, it's in IK. Is that IK again? No, it switched. So I need to go back in here. There it is. Put this back into IK. There you go. So it is gonna stretch. But that's okay. We can slightly compensate. I don't mind, because it's a breakdown, I don't mind doing this a little bit. So I'll probably have the hand wrap around a little bit more. But I kind of like getting some squash and stretch in there. And then we can still lead around with the head a bit more. Then this hand, we want to swing the arm around. Because this was going to be our momentum. Swing through. So again, you can push that line of action a bit more. Get a nice hang time in there. So you can kind of already see where it's going as I'm painting those pictures. Get out. Love the quality of animation too, by the way. How long will you say it'll take you before... say it took you to be this badass at it? Thanks, man. I appreciate the compliment. Well, I mean, I've been animating professionally for 8 years. I feel like I've still got a shit ton to learn, so it's gonna take some time, but I would say the first, maybe, I think I had ideas when I first started out, but I still had so much to learn. Like, I don't think I was ready necessarily for animation when I first got the job, but I knew that if I tried hard enough, I could pick it up. So yeah, it was a case of just practicing, but I would say I started to feel more confident in my abilities maybe after like 4, maybe 5 years. So it's only in the last like 2-3 years, maybe somewhere around that time, maybe about 3 years, I would say. In the last 3 years, I actually feel like I can achieve what I'm trying to, and then it's more just about my choices. But in terms of execution, I think I'm fairly close. There's still like loads of stuff in polish and like nuance that I feel like I have a lot to learn in, and that's kind of, you know, that's the next part of the progression working in feature film. But I think the foundations I feel fairly confident in now. So it's just building on top of that really, and just trying new shots and trying to be more specific. So we have this hang time in here. Boom, boom. I would like to just have an ease in to suggest that we're going to hang in here. And then I want to ease out that leg a bit more. So we get a bit of follow through on that leg in there. Then we're going to have to reduce some of the bend bones. Maybe it arcs over. And then I would like to get a little less twist so that we feel the follow through as it comes around here. And then the same for like dragging the shoulder and the hand. I want to get a little bit of that follow through so not everything dies at the same time. That might be a bit too much, so I'm going to take all of this and let's just blend it in a bit more. Go a bit higher on the upper arm. Just tracking a little bit more of an arc in there. And then that bend bow in the arm. Something like this. Just tracking those arcs as we're going through. And then I would like to get a little bit of that drag on the forearm here, so it's suggesting it's gonna drag. Still want to get some lead on the head though. The neck feels too down here. There you go. I'm very conscious that I tilt my head when I'm looking at like the creative stuff. I start doing this more. You'll probably notice it in my streams now. Right, let's save that. But I did put, it's hard to say hours. Obviously, you know, when you've been working for 8 years, I can't remember how much time I spent on a shot 8 years ago. But I did put a lot of time. I would say most of my focus. And obviously, I was studying for 3 years, so there's a lot of time that you can practice in that period. So I'm gonna pivot off the toe here. So we begin to ease out on that planted foot. And I'll get a bit of foot roll in there. And then I want to come around and lead in with the chest. So I want to still get more twist and lead. Again, I'm trying to push the posing. I'm going to dive down with the head. Then this leg's got to ease in. So yeah, this is where I knew it was going to stretch. Because we're covering such a big distance. But I do want to try and find a pose that still feels dynamic, because this is where it could get ugly pretty quickly. I could just do a lead like this, but I don't know. Comes around, steps in. I think I am going to have to just do maybe a big stretch in here. Go for big stretch territory. I don't know what's going on with this leg though, and it's really bothering me. Why is this pinching so much? If I just reset, there you go. It's the I think it's rotations on the foot. It's over rotated, but it's because I'm working in world space. I'll clean it up later. I'll convert it later so that's clean. But that is annoying. So we're coming through, coming around. Oh, we need to go this way. Keep our weight on the back leg. Get a big lead on that foot as it comes through. And then let's play around with the arm posing. Now, as this comes back, we dragging that hand, bring the shoulder down. It does feel like maybe this arm is already getting too low. Let's try something like this. Play with some of the hand posing in here as well. Again, I can clean up this posing later if I need to, but I would like to try and get a decent foundation. So that's the left hand. This is where libraries are useful. That feels a bit better. So let's lead in a bit more with the spine so I can counter back with the head. Just make that, there you go. That feels a bit more anatomically correct. Let's reduce the foot roll. Right. So I'm just going to Playblast that section now, and I want to see what we get. Bum 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 bum. it feels already quite tight. It feels quite fast when I'm playing that back already, but I'll play it through. I might need to There's always been something about this composition which I had a vision for, and I'm not quite sure it's landing yet, so I might need to rework some of the camera. But I'll play it and see what we get. So it's just that section there. So let's save, and then I'll Playblast. Version 13. Do you see that? That bum 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 bum. So that feels pretty good, the steps. I don't know if the lo-fi is going over the top of that. I'll just turn it off for a second. Yeah, it feels pretty fun. Yeah, exactly. You like how in sync it is. Dude, that's literally the idea. The whole concept is based around all the animes synced. Because I think the song has interesting rhythmic patterns, and it gets crazier as it goes along. Like there's parts where it goes like, and it gets crazy, like it amps up. It starts out a little bit like easing into it, where it goes bong, and then kind of goes into it. But as the shot goes on, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, so that by the end of it, it does ramp down at the end as well. So there's like this nice progression of it kind of going crazy, 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 and then we calm down a little bit at the end. Which is why I picked that song. I spent ages trying to find something that, first of all, I could use legally as music, but also something that felt what the kind of tone I was going for. But the thing that I've actually really liked about this process as well is it's kind of naturally evolved on its own, in the sense that I've just explored material, and then whatever material I find inspires me to then kind of go in a certain direction. So I went in with a vision, but that vision has evolved based on the material that I'm finding. And I go in with a specific idea for what material I'm looking for, find something I didn't expect, and I'm like, oh, actually, that's kind of cool, so I'll riff off of that and try something else. So that's kind of where it's got to that point where once I found the material I was looking for, that's kind of what it's become. But I didn't necessarily go in with, this is what you see, what we're building right now. I didn't necessarily go in with that specific intention of, this is exactly what I'm going to make, and I'm going to make it this way. It's kind of naturally evolved. But I think that's just part of the creative process, right? You don't go in and it always ends up looking how you expected it to. It always evolves and it typically improves, but you don't necessarily go in with like a very hard focused vision and you just make it and then it's done. At least that's not how I find it works. I do want to play a little bit with just getting a bit more of a time onto her antic for this swing, because it just comes out of nowhere here. So I want to just go bum kind of thing. So I'm just going to add a key in there just so that we get a little bit of an antic time there, because right now it just goes out then back in again. So I want to spend some time easing into that. So let's remove this key. Just do a little ease out. Now I'm going to lead a little bit more with the foot. Drag the leg back. Just get the spine going first. Then we ease in. I'm going to keep the leg behind, so that comes in later. So I want to get the arm in last. Well, actually, yeah, that's a good point. To get the arm in last, I'll need to go first. I need to ease in with the foot. And again, it's just trying to define those beats as clearly as you can. So this is why it involves tighter spacing. Then we ease in. Get a tighter foot arc as that comes around. Still might delay the arm more here. I might need to actually lead with the foot here. So let's have that foot come in earlier. Like this. Then we separate the timing so it overshoots and then it's already beginning to ease out. There you go. And then in here, I'm going to play with that timing a little bit more. Just to give it a little bit more of an ease out again. Just so we can get a bit of drag on that hand. And then delay the chest. I know we're doing this really small in screen space. Should probably just made that bigger so you can actually see what I'm doing. It might have to go a little less. We may just have to play with depth a bit in here. Something like this. Then the foot comes through. Ah, huh. Like that. And then that knee needs to be a little straighter. I might actually, I'm just going to wrap around the root a bit more. Comes up, around, down. Because here, we want to drag the hand, but then it's got to come through. So in here, I need to tweak my spacing a little bit on this arm. I think that's going to be too tight. As that comes through. And then I might drag the fingers here. So the right hand get some nice splay. There we go. See how we now get that little ease out, come through, then come round, tight, then come through. So that should feel pretty good. I'll save that and see how it feels. Am I going straight ahead with animation? No. I typically do pose the pose, so we started out with our key poses. I usually do my 5 main keys as my first blocking stage. So that's your key poses, and then your antics, breakdowns, and overshoots. If you have antics and overshoots, and you know they're relative to actions, but always have a breakdown. And then if I need to define these ins and outs, that's kind of what I started doing here. But it's all pose to pose based because I use Tween Machine in my workflow. So in order to use Tween Machine, you have to establish your brackets, right? You have to start your main keys and maybe a breakdown. So once you got your main keys, then you can do a breakdown in Tween Machine based on those 2 keys, and then from there maybe you can add an antic or an overshoot from your keys and your breakdown, and then from there you can building your ease ins and outs based on those 5 main keys. So that's kind of my workflow, and I've used that for like the last 6 years. So the answer is no. I do my key poses straight ahead, if that makes sense. But I guess you have to start out with somewhere before you go pose to pose, right? So that's my workflow. But like, for instance, I love Akira, right? So this is some of my references, and to a degree, I want some of it to look like this. Like the color palette, especially, I want to look a little bit like this. But in terms of like the style of the, so this is what this is reference of the cell shading for the characters. So they're going to look like they're more like a cell, like actually been drawn. So this is a lot of reference for like how the cloth works, how the line work works, how the hair works, all that kind of stuff. But I do have some other references which I might be able to quickly find. I know we're not jumping into the animation right now at this stage for the stream, but it's cool to see this stuff, and it kind of gives everyone context as to what I'm working on. So if you give me 2 seconds, I can bring that up too. But here you go, look dev. So here's a bunch of references of stuff like that I want the actual backgrounds texture-wise to look like. So I know it's a lot of work, but that's why I'm doing this, right? I like doing this stuff. So I want to do, like, in Photoshop, I'm going to do a lot of textures. I want it to feel like it's an oil painting. I like seeing these, like, conceptual brush strokes here and there, but it's still very intricate. But I like the contrast. That's what a lot of 90s animes do, is I love the contrast of seeing these highly detailed fidelity backgrounds, but in the foregrounds are these like cell shaded, or like cell painted in traditional characters. I like that contrast. So I want to kind of put those two elements together. So this is just a bunch of reference of stuff that I found from Ghost in the Shell and Akira that I want to use as a reference for the visual art direction. I love all the signs. There's a lot of reference for the signs. But I love this one especially. So like just the paneling and the concrete and everything like that. I want to kind of have that dystopian cyber feel to the world. So yeah, that's the full idea. It's gonna be a big project, but it's fun. Right? Like, it keeps me something to chip away at in my spare time, and typically I will stream it. I may not stream every time I work on it, but I would say a good 90% of the time I'll probably stream it. So, you know I do it very spontaneously, so it's hard to regulate, oh, Aaron's going to do a stream now, so let's tune in. It's very spontaneous, but I guess that gives you more of a reason to follow, because then at least you'll be notified. But yeah, I'm recording it all anyway, so eventually it'll all be on YouTube once it's finally complete. But like I say, it's honestly, realistically, probably not going to be done in 2025. It'll probably be done 26. So it's, again, I'm not doing this for like a big resume piece to get me work or anything. It's just something fun to work on in my spare time. Yeah, that feels pretty good. Nice. Yeah, what I actually might do, given the circumstances, I didn't realize how much time it had been, and I actually need to feed my dog. Poor thing. So yeah, what I'll do is I think we'll probably call it here, given the circumstances now. But I think we've made some pretty good progress today, and it's been awesome seeing you guys all tune in. So yeah, if you haven't already, be sure to give it a follow, and there will be more streams coming your way. It's just a case of when I get some spare time, and it's around Christmas time, so it's going to be busy. But whenever I do get a spare day where I'm not really doing anything, I'll be here. So yeah, stay tuned. Hope you're all doing good, and yeah, keep up the animation. But I'll play this a couple more times, and then we'll probably call it here, and I'll see you in the next one. sweet. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Awesome, guys. Well, yeah, as I say, take care in the meantime, and I'll speak to you all soon. Ciao.